Okay, I need you to do something for me before we even start.
Oh, I'm ready.
I want you to take everything you think you know about morality, everything you learned in Sunday school, everything you picked up from philosophy class, even the dictionary definitions of good and evil, and I want you to mentally crumple it up and toss it in the trash bin,
Okay.
just for the next hour.
That is a fairly aggressive way to start a Tuesday.
Yeah.
You are asking the listener to delete their entire ethical operating system.
I really am. Because I've been sitting here with this stack of documents you sent over, and I have to be honest, it's one of the weirdest, most dense, and frankly, most mind-bending collections we've ever covered on a deep dive.
It's not your typical stack.
Not at all. I mean, just look at this. It's not just one article. We've got technical schematics for something called the Alma's extraction protocol. We have architectural diagrams for an IDA system. And then, just to make it even stranger, we have this epic mythos about a figure called Allah Attada.
It is a unique combination. Usually we are looking at just science or just history or maybe some philosophy. This is, well, it's a synthesis.
Synthesis is a polite word for it. The premise here is absolutely startling. The core argument of these texts is that the concepts of vice and profit have absolutely nothing to do with religion.
Nothing.
They aren't about being a good person or a chosen one or anything mystical.
Correct. The text argues that these are engineering terms. They are descriptions of neurophysiology, physics, and systems architecture.
Which completely flips the script. We are stripping away thousands of years of ethical baggage to look at sin not as a stain on your soul, but as a mechanical failure in a circuit.
A glitch.
And prophecy, not as divine intervention, but as a state of superconductivity.
And that is the shift that matters. If you stop looking at vice, or porok, as the text refers to it, as a moral failing, you stop judging it and start diagnosing it.
Right.
The central conflict in all these sources isn't good versus evil. It is flow versus blockage.
Flow versus blockage. I like that.
Exactly.
The baseline reality presented here is that truth or reality itself is a high-density stream of energy. It's a vector. It moves. And vice.
Yeah.
Vice is simply a breakdown in the circuitry that handles that stream. It's a plumbing problem.
I love that we're reducing the human soul to plumbing, but it works. And the deeper we go into this stack, the more physical it gets. We are going to talk about lipid blockages in the brain, which is a wild concept.
A really wild concept.
We're going to break down how bureaucracies collapse using fluid dynamics, and then we're going to get into this Alma's protocol, which claims you can remove blood clots using the physics of a tornado.
And we cannot forget the origin story, that Allah Ota myth. It reads like a fairy tale, but if you look closer, it's actually a logbook for human evolutionary adaptation.
It's about how we learn to see.
In a completely new way.
So here is the mission for this deep dive. If you have ever felt stuck, physically, mentally, creatively, or if you've ever felt like the systems around you are designed to crush innovation, this episode is the manual you didn't know you needed. It's a diagnostic tool.
We are going to explain why a prophet is actually just a superconductor, why vice is a bubble in a metal sheet, and how to literally pull toxins out of your body using a vacuum.
It is time to decompose and distill. Let's get into the physics of stagnation.
Let's do it. Section 1, redefining vice. And we have to start with the baseline. The text introduces this concept of the high-density object or the super-dense object. What exactly are we looking at here?
This is the foundation of the entire theory. Imagine an object representing truth or reality. The text describes it as super dense. It means there is absolutely no empty space inside it.
None.
No wasted space. It's packed with meaning, energy, and substance. It is solid. It is integral.
So like a neutron star or a diamond, that kind of density.
A diamond is a good analogy because of the structure. It's rigid, it's clear, and it's incredibly hard. In this system, which the text calls the LLA architecture, the ideal state for a human or a system is to match that density.
You want to be a diamond.
You want to be a superconductor. You want energy, information, and truth to flow through you with zero resistance.
Okay, so that's the goal. Superconductivity, flow. Now, usually when we talk about vice, we're talking about drinking too much, gambling, lying, cheating, all these moral failings. How does this text define vice against that backdrop of superconductivity?
In this framework, vice is defined strictly as a physical and neurophysiological defect. It is the interruption, the looping, or the stagnation of that flow.
It's not that you are bad.
It's that you are broken in a conductive sense. Your wiring is faulty.
The sources break this down into 4 dimensions, and I want to spend some real time on these because each one is a rabbit hole.
They really are.
The first one is the geometric meaning. The text talks about the closed circle.
The loop. Think about the geometry of flow. In nature, healthy systems are usually spirals or waves. They go somewhere.
They expand.
They expand, they move. In the source's symbology, everything has a break or an opening to allow energy to enter and exit. But Weiss is described as an ideal circle, a closed loop.
Which is funny because usually we think of a circle as perfect. The circle of life, right?
In this context, a closed circle is a trap. It's a death sentence for the system. Neurophysiologically, this maps perfectly to the dopamine trap.
Okay, explain that.
Think about addiction, or even just obsessive thoughts. You chase a repetitive pleasure, or you spiral into a repetitive fear. You go round and round and round.
Like when you're doom scrolling at 2 a.m., you aren't learning anything new, you're just looping.
Exactly. And physically, your neurons are forming a closed circuit. The signal just loops. The entropy argument here is brutal. A closed loop cuts itself off from the external flow of energy, what the text calls the genealogy or the stream.
It's isolated.
Completely.
Yeah.
And since it can't get new energy from the outside, it begins to consume itself.
It eats itself.
It has to. It's a basic law of physics, conservation of energy. If you aren't getting input, you burn your own reserves. That is the geometric definition of Weiss, a structure that consumes itself because it refuses to open up to the flow.
That is terrifyingly relatable. But let's move to the second dimension, because this is where I need you to convince me. The neurophysiological meaning. The text talks about the lipid wall.
Yes, the fat wall.
Right, and it uses this analogy of the Tesla valve. Now, I've heard of Tesla cars, obviously, but what is a Tesla valve?
It's a brilliant piece of engineering invented by Nikola Tesla about 100 years ago. It's a pipe with no moving parts.
No moving parts. How does it work?
No flappers, no springs. It's just geometry.
Yeah.
Inside the pipe, there are these loops and teardrop shapes.
Okay, and what do they do?
If you push fluid through in the forward direction, it snakes around the teardrops easily. Very low resistance. But, and this is the genius of it, if you try to push the fluid backwards,
It blocks.
it doesn't just block. The geometry forces the fluid to loop back on itself and collide with the incoming stream. It uses the fluid's own energy to create turbulence and stop the flow.
Wow.
It creates a friction seal using nothing but the fluid itself.
So the harder you push back, the harder it blocks you.
Exactly. Now map that onto the brain. The text argues that our neural pathways are biological Tesla valves.
Okay.
They are designed for forward momentum toward reality, toward truth. But when you try to route a signal backward, when you try to deny a reality that is staring you in the face,
Wait, so if I'm lying to myself, if I'm refusing to accept something painful,
you are creating backflow turbulence in your own brain. The signal tries to go the wrong way and it clashes. This creates a dead zone or a zone of high friction.
and the text says the body reacts to this. How? It must do something.
It insulates it. The brain realizes, hey, every time we go down this road, we hit massive turbulence. This is dangerous. Let's seal it off. So it physically packs lipids fats around that neural circuit.
Hold on. You're saying that if I lie to myself enough, my brain physically clogs that thought pathway with fat.
That is the claim. It creates a lipid wall. It's a physiological blockade. The result is signal blockage.
What does that mean for the body?
Blood can't get there. Oxytocin can't get there. The signal literally cannot pass.
So a corrupt person, someone who is deep in vice, isn't just being stubborn. They literally cannot hear the truth.
Their physiological conductivity is broken. The signal hits a wall of fat. It's not a moral choice at that point. It's a structural failure. They have insulated themselves from reality.
That explains so much about arguing with people on the internet.
You're throwing facts at a lipid wall.
Exactly. Okay, let's look at the third one, the energetic meaning, the parasitic void.
This goes back to that super dense object. If reality is solid like cast, metal, Weiss is a bubble, a void inside the casting.
Like an air bubble trapped in steel. I could picture that.
Exactly. From the outside, the metal looks solid. But inside, there's a pocket of nothingness, a lie. Now, what happens when you put that metal under pressure?
It snaps right at the bubble, the weak point.
Structural integrity fails. Life tests us with pressure. A truthful person, a dense object holds up. A person full of vices or lies cracks because they lack density. They are hollow in critical places.
And the text calls these voids vampiric. Why that word?
Because a void is a low-pressure zone. It sucks energy from the neighboring healthy cells. It's a free radical. It doesn't generate anything. It just drains the structure around it to maintain its existence.
So lying makes you brittle, and it drains your energy. I like that. And the fourth one, the Turkic meaning.
Separation. The text links this to the concept of I versus the whole.
The cancer cell analogy.
It's the perfect biological equivalent. What is a cancer cell?
Mm.
It is a cell that forgets it is part of a body.
It goes rogue.
It says, I don't work for the system anymore. I only work for myself. It disconnects from the system's architecture, the IDS, and starts growing for its own sake.
And the text mentions the system has an immune response to this. It must.
Yes, the sun spheres. The system eventually identifies these separated units, these vices, and removes them. But the key takeaway here is that vice is, at its core, a reduction in conductivity.
The cold spot.
It is a cold knot, where the internal fire, which the text identifies as oxytocin, has gone out.
So we shouldn't fight vice, right? That's what the text says. Fighting it just gives it energy.
Correct. If you fight a shadow, you are just dancing in the dark. You don't fight the darkness, you just increase the density of the light.
You increase the pressure of the truth.
And in a super dense object, a bubble cannot exist. It gets compressed into nothingness.
That is a heavy way to start. But it gets even heavier because the text takes this biological model and applies it to society.
It scales up perfectly.
We're moving into section 2, systemic vice, the bureaucratic virus.
This is where the linguistic deconstruction comes in. And I think this is where the listeners are going to start nodding their heads because we all deal with this. The source breaks down the word porok, which is vice in the Russian and Kazakh contexts used here, into 3 syllables. P-O-R-O-Q.
P-O-R-O-Q. It sounds like a spell.
It's a formula for system failure. Let's look at the first syllable, P. In this linguistic breakdown, P represents the rules, the law.
Okay.
Or specifically, the Tesla valve paradox applied to management.
Wait, I thought Tesla valves were good. They direct the flow.
One Tesla valve is good. It directs flow. Drive on the right side of the road. That's a valve. Keeps traffic moving. But imagine you put 1,000 Tesla valves in a row.
Oh, I see where this is going. Resistance. Infinite resistance. Nothing gets through.
Exactly. This is the definition of bureaucracy and micromanagement. When you have too many rules, the flow stops. The paper becomes more important than the living task.
The process becomes the point.
The system becomes a wall of valves.
Let's make this real. Imagine I need to buy a printer for the office. In a flow state, I just go buy the printer. In a P state.
In a P state, you fill out a request form, that's valve 1. You send it to your manager. Valve 2, he sends it to finance. Valve 3. Finance kicks it back because you used the wrong font.
Backflow.
Turbulence. You created turbulence in the system.
And I spend 3 weeks trying to get a $200 printer. The work isn't getting done.
That is the Tesla valve paradox. You have applied so much order that you have achieved total stagnation. The text defines this state not as safety, but as P, the first stage of vice.
Which leads inevitably to the second syllable, or R.
Or translates to the abyss, the pit, or grave. In this context, it means the loss of meaning.
The pit. That sounds ominous.
It's the psychological result of the deadlock. When you can't get the printer, and you spend 3 weeks arguing about the form, what happens to your spirit, to your motivation?
I stop caring. I just check out. I'm doing the work, but I'm dead inside.
The why disappears. You aren't working to achieve a goal anymore. You are working to satisfy the valve. You fall into the pit of meaninglessness. The text calls this an intellectual vacuum.
A space where initiative falls and dies.
That's a powerful way to put it.
That's actually really depressing because I think we've all been there, and that vacuum is dangerous.
It is, because a system that has lost its meaning, the OR eventually has to justify its existence. And that's when it becomes OQ.
OQ. What does that mean?
OQ usually means arrow or vector. But here, in the context of vice, it means weapon. It's the system turning against its own children.
How so?
The text says it treats rule breakers as enemies. Think about a rigid corporate structure or a totalitarian state.
Yeah.
If you try to innovate, if you try to bypass the wall of valves to actually get something done,
You're a threat.
the system attacks you. It treats you like a virus. It uses its energy to punish the people trying to save it.
So PO or OQ is too many rules. P, leading to a loss of meaning, OR, resulting in the system weaponizing itself against its people.
Death by control. The text makes a crucial distinction here between order and control.
What's the difference?
Order is a riverbed. It helps the water flow. It gives it direction.
Yeah.
Controls the dam. It makes the water stagnate.
And the text says, a system based on walls is dead. A system based on flow is alive.
It proposes a litmus test for any new law or rule. Does this increase flow or does it create resistance? If it creates resistance without effector, it is vice. It is a blockage.
It's amazing how this scales. It's the same mechanism in the brain lipid blockage as it is in the government paperwork blockage.
The physics are consistent.
But the source material doesn't just stay abstract. In Section 3, it gets incredibly physical. We need to talk about the anatomy of a thrombus.
This is where the analyst in the text does something brilliant. He looks at a diagram of Weiss, the closed loop and the pit we just talked about, and realizes it's a perfect architectural diagram of a blood clot forming in the lymphatic system.
He's reverse engineering disease using the same logic.
Exactly. Let's look at the geometry of the trap. You have a lymphatic vessel. Now imagine the walls spasm, maybe from stress, fear, or that lipid wall in the brain sending bad signals.
Okay, so the walls tighten.
That spasm creates a wall. Then the valve closes. That creates a pit at the bottom of the valve.
And since the lymph system is basically the body's sewerage.
If the flow stops, the fluid turns into a swamp. Stagnation. Now here's the physics of it. When flow is strong, everything moves. But when flow stops, what settles to the bottom first?
The heaviest stuff. Denser materials.
Heavy metals. Mercury, lead, cadmium. And the text metaphorically and perhaps literally links this to heavy thoughts.
Heavy thoughts sink. Come on.
Well, think about the physiological state. Depression, grief, heavy lies. They create stress hormones. They cause inflammation. They have a kind of density. So they settle at the bottom of this closed valve.
And once they settle,
They act as a center for crystallization.
like a pearl, a seed for something to grow around.
A toxic pearl. Fats, fibrin, and waste start sticking to these heavy metals. They calcify. The blockage literally turns into stone.
That's the calcification, a physical knot in your body.
Yes, and this is why the Ala-Eta system described in the text emphasizes spheres instead of circles or tubes.
Right, the rotating spheres. Why spheres? What's the advantage?
Centrifugal force. If the system is a rotating sphere, the centrifugal force is constantly throwing waste to the periphery. Nothing can settle. There is no bottom for the sediment to accumulate.
It keeps the sludge moving, it's self-cleaning.
And the solvent, the thing that keeps it all liquid,
Let me guess. Oxytocin.
oxytocin. The text calls it the internal fire. It claims that oxytocin physically thins the blood and prevents this gel-like stagnation. Where there is love, blood does not clot.
That is a beautiful line. But let's say you do have a clot. Let's say you have this vice in your shoulder or your back. You can feel the knot. The text critiques traditional massage pretty harshly.
It does. It calls it linear action. Think about it. You have a blockage, a stone, essentially. If you push down on it, like a traditional massage therapist might, you are acting like a hammer.
You're just compacting it. You're driving it deeper.
You are driving the thrombus down to the periosteum, the membrane covering the bone. The text warns that this causes the tissue to separate from the bone, leading to necrosis and what we call aging.
So you're actually causing damage.
You are bruising the structure.
So pushing is bad. What's the alternative? This brings us to Section 4, the Alma's extraction protocol. And I have to be honest, when I read this part, I was skeptical. It sounded like something out of a sci-fi medical bay, but it's done with bare hands.
It is a biomechanical revolution.
Yeah.
But the concept is simple. Extraction. Pulling out, not pushing in.
Okay, walk us through it. Phase 1 is the vortex lift.
Right. The tool is a fist and oil. You need a seal, some kind of lubricant. The action isn't linear, it's rotational. You rotate the fist to create a tornado effect.
All right, I was with you on the bureaucracy, and I was tentatively with you on the brain fat, but now you're telling me I can use my bare hands to create a tornado on my skin?
Well, think about the physics. What happens in the eye of a tornado?
The pressure drops, it's a low-pressure zone, it sucks everything up, cows, roofs, everything goes up.
Precisely. You are creating a low-pressure zone, a vacuum. The protocol instructs the practitioner to use a specific rotational movement with the fist while oscillating the fingers up and down, like a vibration pump.
So you're twisting and pumping at the same time?
And physics does the rest. Fluids move from high pressure to low pressure. The thrombus is stuck near the bone. That's a high-pressure zone. You create a vacuum on the skin. A low-pressure zone. Where does the thrombus go?
It wants to move up, to the eye of the storm.
It lifts.
Yeah?
It detaches from the bone and floats up into the dermis, the subcutaneous layer. You have literally sucked the stone up to the surface.
Okay, so now you have a glob of toxic sludge sitting just under your skin. You still haven't explained how getting it out doesn't require a scalpel. This is the part that sounded like a magic trick to me.
It's not magic, it's filtration.
Uh-huh.
This brings us to phase 2, fingerprint extraction. The tool here is the fingertip. The text calls the ridges of your fingerprints a secret weapon.
The treads in our fingers, like tires.
Exactly. They act as microhooks. Once the toxin is raised to the surface, you use gentle circular motions with the fingertips. The ridges catch the sludge
And do what with it?
and filter it out through the skin's pores.
Through the pores. But the skin is a barrier.
It's a semi-permeable barrier. You sweat, don't you? Things come out. If the pressure differential is right and the hooks are working, the text claims you can pull the heavy metals and waste right through the pores.
And the text says you can see it happen. There's proof.
The visual confirmation. The oil changes color. It darkens. It turns black or gray as the heavy metals and waste are pulled through the skin barrier.
That is wild. It's like an oil change for your body. You're physically removing the blockage.
It's the physical application of the decompose and distill philosophy. You isolate the blockage, lift it, and remove it. Flow is restored. And notice, no moral judgment, just mechanics.
Which brings us to the flip side of the coin. We've talked about blockages, vice, thrombi, bureaucracy. Now let's talk about the ultimate state of flow. Section 5, redefining the profit.
This section begins with a prompt and instruction to generate a definition of profit for an AI, stripping away all mysticism.
I love that framing. So if vice is stagnation, what is a profit?
A profit is breakthrough. A profit is flow, the total opposite.
Let's look at the etymology again. The text breaks down the word prorock.
P-R-O plus R-O-K. Pro-O implies a vector. It means through, forward, breakthrough. It is movement that pierces those lipid layers of lies we talked about earlier.
Okay, so it cuts through the blockage, and ROK. In Russian, rourke usually means fate or doom.
But here, the text reframes it. Not doom, but the inevitability of truth. A vector that cannot be bent.
A force of nature.
So a prophet is someone who embodies the forward vector of inevitable truth.
Let's talk about the neurophysiology. What does a prophet's brain look like in this system? Is it just clean?
It's a brain with zero resistance. The text defines a prophet as a human superconductor.
No lipid blockages.
No loops,
Right.
no dopamine traps, no dead zones of denial. The signal of truth passes through them instantly. There is no distortion from fear and no distortion from personal gain.
They're a clean channel.
They are transparent to the signal.
And this explains the seeing the future part, right? It's not magic. It can't be.
Exactly. It's not a crystal ball. If you have zero resistance and you are connected to the high-density object of reality, you see the tree of variance. You see the consequences of actions without the noise of wishful thinking.
Right. Most of us look at the future and say, I hope this works out.
Or, I'm afraid this will happen.
The superconductor looks at the vector and says, based on the trajectory, this will crash.
Precisely. They see the math. The text gives the prophet a specific function in the system, the icebreaker.
I love that. Vice is the dam. The prophet is the icebreaker.
The prophet destroys dead rules, the pi, or p, from our earlier equation, to restore flow. They shatter the calcification so the river can move again.
So the formula for a prophet is PRO, breakthrough, plus R, resonance, plus OQ, vector.
Tie it all back together.
Yeah.
They use resonance to align with the truth, and they become a vector to deliver it.
Speaking of resonance, we have to get to the origin story. This is the last big piece. Section 6, the myth of Alata. The text calls this a protocol of awakening disguised as a myth.
This story is fascinating because it reads like an evolutionary biology textbook written in the style of an epic poem.
Yeah, it's really something else.
It's the story of Al-Aita and his family trapped in a cave for 7 years.
The cave. The womb of evolution.
7 years in the dark. The text lists specific adaptations that occurred. First, upright walking.
Because the ground was damp. Seems like a small detail, but it's important.
Damp ground, tight space, they were forced to stand and walk along the walls, clinging to the stone. This straightened the spine. It physically prepared the vessel for a new kind of consciousness.
And then virtualization. This is where it gets trippy.
In pitch darkness, eyes are useless. So Ala-Ada learned to see via echolocation, sound reflection.
It's like a bat or a dolphin.
Or a submarine. By making sounds and listening to the echoes, his brain began to build 3D models of the space.
He developed a VR headset inside his brain.
Essentially. And this is crucial. Because his brain was starved for visual data, it repurposed that processing power to build abstract models. He learned to see the structure of things without looking at them.
He started seeing the architecture, not the surface.
Exactly.
And then there's the sunlight connection. There was a crack in the ceiling, right?
A single crack. And this is where the text emphasizes the nutritional value of light. He understood light not just as illumination, but as food, vitamin D.
It's information.
It's information, it's energy. He realized it governed their mood and their bone density. It was a lifeline.
But the climax of the story is the escape, the great resonance.
They are facing death. Starvation is setting in. They can't dig their way out. The walls are too thick. So what do?
They pray, but not like, please save us. They use sound, a very specific kind of sound.
Synchronized sound.
Mm.
The whole family synchronizes their voices. They find the resonant frequency of the stone wall blocking them.
The physics of resonance. If you hit the right note, the glass shatters.
Or in this case, the cave wall. The resonance causes the blockage to collapse. It's the ultimate prophet moment, using a vector of sound to break a physical dam.
And when they step out, the Renaissance, the great rebirth.
They emerge as new humans, nota. And because their brains have been rewired by 7 years of echolocation and darkness, their vision is different.
How so?
Alilaya looks at the world, the snow, the sun, and he sees the interference pattern.
The collision of reflected light and direct sunlight. It's not just seeing light, it's seeing how light interacts with itself.
He sees the light grid. Because his brain is now wired to see geometry and structure, thanks to the echolocation, he sees the hidden geometry behind physical objects.
He doesn't just see a tree.
He sees the energy lattice of the tree, the blueprint.
And this leads to the creation of the Shajair, the
Yeah.
genealogy.
Yes, he starts placing names, history, and data into this luminous grid structure he sees. It's the tree of life. It's not just a list of ancestors. It's a holographic database of humanity built on the architecture of light.
It's incredible. It ties everything together. The flow of the genealogy, the blockage of the cave, the resonance that frees them.
It shows this entire stack of documents, from the lipid blockages to the bureaucracy to the myth, is telling one single story.
What's the story?
That truth is high-density flow, and survival, evolution, everything depends on removing the resistance.
So let's synthesize this for the listener. We've gone from the microscopic fat blocking a neuron to the physical pulling a clot out of a shoulder.
To the systemic bureaucracy killing a
It's
coming.
the mythological shouting down a wall.
And the philosophy holds up at every scale. Decompose and distill. You have to find the blockage. You have to identify the closed loop.
Is it a thought pattern? Is it a toxic relationship? Is it a useless rule at work?
Whatever it is, you find it.
And then you don't just push on it. You don't just fight it. That doesn't work.
You extract it. You create a vacuum. You use resonance. You restore the superconductivity.
Here's my final question for you and for everyone listening. If vice is just a blockage of flow and prophecy is just superconductivity, where are the closed loops in your own life?
That is the question. Are you building walls, rules, excuses, lies, or are you clearing the channel for that internal fire?
Are you a dam or are you an icebreaker?
I think I'm going to go home and try that Almaz extraction on my shoulder. Metaphorically, of course.
I'm going to go home and check my Tesla valves. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. Keep the flow moving.
Stay dense.
See you next time.